Reframing Mindset podcast. We are clear my head of the thoughts that are preventing clarity, practice my speech, among other things. Episodes range from informative knowledge to funny stories about my experiences, and in the future, maybe include interviews. So subscribe and enjoy. Episodes drop every other day. Okay, welcome back to Reframe Mindset podcast. My name is Constance, and this episode I talk about um I actually was doing trying I talk about episode about trying some premium items and stuff like that. Like you reach a point like you try free version of a premium version of certain stuff like certain some give free use enough certain times and stuff like that. What I realize is that okay, that idea is actually good and all those stuff to tell you that okay, you want to invest in certain stuff. But you're gonna realize actually realize something when I actually do it for something else. I want to realize is that you grow up and that thing will come under poverty and are quitting an addiction to drinking and stuff like that is that it wouldn't be a term if it's that if it's that relevant maybe like addiction is an addiction is because you're hard to actually get off right. That's why sometimes you have things like alcohol, anonymous, all those things where it be like, oh, you actually have to be actively saying you're going to come off of these stuff. You can't just be out there so being pro and say, yeah, I'm gonna start drinking all these stuff, all these things. Can't always try. But if you actually do it for a long time, the longer you do it, harder it come. Same thing with tendency. If you out there have a tendency to do stuff. That's why I talk about storage program and stuff like that. It's hard to think in abundance if you have been poor for so long. Like literally, you always thinking about people that been here before slavery and all these stuff ending, all these stuff. You always think of you coming from poor days. So it's like, oh, even though we always progressing each year and all these stuff, that's the thing about each phase. We can't forget the poor days. That's the reason why I talk about the fact that oh, each year we celebrate independence and stuff like that. The importance of it is to reinforce those days. Yeah, you reinforce it for different reasons. And what happens that you back in the days you reinforce it because okay, yeah, back in the days we actually say yeah, we're not gonna be slaves anymore. Yeah, yeah. That's fun and all. But yo, now that we're out there so free and all these stuff and I have to actually pay our way. Freedom, yeah, freedom is not free and all these stuff. You're going to actually realize that yo, the riches that people work for and all these stuff wasn't easy. And it's like, oh, because it wasn't easy, it's hard to actually come in and tell somebody oh they actually work for these stuff. And you just come in and be like, oh, just throw this all away now. We have just stop this now. We're gonna have water forever. When like legit you grow up in a reality where for years people is telling you that okay you're gonna have water and all these stuff and never deliver on their promises and stuff like that. It's like oh you can't tell people to change if you haven't showed them concrete change to say yeah we ain't doing this anymore and stuff like that. So always be like oh my god. But that's the reason why it'd be like, okay, every year we always celebrate independence and stuff like that. Is to is to we each that's gonna realize each year we celebrate for a different reason. We always stuff we're like, okay, we passed this phase, and yeah, saying like, yeah, we ain't going back to this phase. Yeah, it's nice enough. Say we ain't going back to this phase, but knowing that the future phases we out there, so we have to actually say, yeah, we can't just out there to run up and say, yeah, just because we out there not going to this phase, we're going to just we just go away and just go to the new phase real quick. Because what will happen is that just like addiction and everything, stop doing it. And you're going to actually see what the body does to you. You're going to see what the body coming and it's like, yo, that's the thing about with addiction with everything. So the same thing with actually premium stuff. Actually say oh boom. Oh they try the premium stuff about thing you like and then you're gonna and that's everything. And you're gonna realize something. Just like with I talk about, but like, okay, you see me doing a podcast. There are podcasts way before I come in, and there are podcasts way after I leave and all these stuff. Just like with everything else, I come in and then boom, after me, there will be many more and all these stuff. But with with everything, you have a tendency. You tendency to, if you all listen to my podcast, you tendency to listen it on something else. Just like an iPhone versus Samsung user. If I were to say, yo, if I grew up and I know Samsung for years and then boom, you give me an iPhone and stuff like that. There's a tendency to actually go towards the same thing again on the same phone. If you listen to podcasts and all these stuff and you go to me and stuff like that, you take a while and then boom, you'll be like, okay, I don't listen to podcasts anymore. Like, oh, because I get acquainted to the to the iPhone. That's the thing with I call peer pressure and talk about all these stuff. When you actually go to the next phase or stuff like that, you accept the cost of actually changing those stuff. So boom, you're just saying, okay, you want to go to the latest thing, go to the trendiest thing and stuff like that. Maybe the trendiest thing don't include the podcast. So you accept the reality. That's the reason why I talk about when you reach this level. There's a reason why in the university level there's a faculty of science and technology and all these different stuff. Because all these ideas are nice, but it's good to have them separate. That's what you actually learn in BSc level. You'll be like, okay, all these ideas are nice and all these stuff. But at the BSc level, you're gonna realize there's a reason why the faculty of science or whatever they call it, pure enough like back in the day. There's a reason why it's that way compared to a different faculty and a different faculty. I'm like, oh yeah, this is the reason why. This is the reason why. And it's like, so with the thing with trying a premium version and stuff like that, you're gonna realize I realized that I actually was, even when my premium version, free version of the premium version of a certain product, I stopped using it. I love the experience of it, but I tendency to use that same thing in its free version compared to trying the premium version of a different product. And it's like, oh wow, that's actually wild. I actually would try the free version of the free version of a product that I love. I continue enjoying the free version of a product that I actually love, comparing to going to do the premium version of the same that have the same stuff. And it's like, wow, that's actually what that. So those are stuff that the actual experience will be like, oh, um, it's good to actually do these stuff to say that, okay, yeah, when you actually find out who you really are and all these stuff, you've gone through all these phases to say, yeah, whoa, this is the reason why I use this site and all these stuff. All these stuff de-cleanses your life. You'll be like, oh, pull out a lot of stuff like that. Yo, they say, you pull out, you have all this stuff, you pull out the laptop and all this stuff is like legit there. Like your whole stuff get decluttered and all this stuff because what with that? You're going through the rigorous phase now of actually going through and testing that, okay, yeah, this is the reason why I use this now. Oh, this is my phone. It's like, oh, so I'll be like, oh, this is my phone. And it's like, oh, cool. This is my app and all this stuff. This is my music playlist. And it's like, oh, this is my music playlist. And it's like, oh wow, wow, wow. You know, there's like those other stuff. You'll be like, okay, boom, just doing that and be like, oh, this is my stuff, man. It's like, okay, that by doing that, there's some individual. Like, you try different stuff, and then you're going to realize that, oh wow, this is me. And it's like, oh wow, this is you. And it's like, cool, cool. And then what with that? This is you upgrade. Alright, this is but this is you upgrade now. It's like, oh yeah, find different ways, but yo, when I realize like, oh, in trying the premium version of different stuff, you're going to be 10. So boom, if you want to be cool, you're going to tend to always try to go to that stuff. And it's like, you're going to always be tend to go for the functional, go for the design and all this stuff. Go for the functionality. So it's like, oh, I can tell you, I can preach to you, but oh my God, YouTube. I use YouTube for years and all these stuff and all these stuff. But if you use Spotify and all these stuff, you're going to tend to use Spotify because what happens is that you're grown to do that. You will naturally do that. It's like, oh yeah, yeah. So I can't force you to do that. But that's the thing where you have to come into poverty and all these stuff. This is one thing you're going to actually do. Try the premium version of our stuff just for the thing you actually use. Sometimes be like, oh, you try premium version for many stuff. I know these are stuff you're actually doing, but we're gonna realize is that these are going to take up your time to actually go through and be like, oh my god, sign up for the pre version of this and all these stuff and all these things. That is actually going to take up your time in the longer you go. You're going to actually realize that. You're going to actually realize that compared to you going and say, okay, yeah, let me just come in and be like, okay, I'm going to invest in this. No, I'm going to add this to my budget to say, yeah, I'm going to add Spotify and all these stuff to my budget now and all these stuff. But it's good for you to actually go through the process. And that's the reason why I come on out poverty and all these experience because I've been that person. So it's gonna take you actually going through these stuff to realize that yeah, just paying for this stuff and actually going out and investing in these stuff that you actually like, you're gonna realize, oh yeah, this is actually the best and only and the best way to actually go would be like, oh, actually go out and invest in the stuff. Yeah, but if you want to actually find the cheap way and stuff like that, you can try it out and you're gonna realize that, oh yeah, you're going to realize that even when you actually try the premium version of certain stuff, you're going to be tend to go towards the same thing. Like, oh, I still the same music and stuff like that on a Spotify premium. Can listen it as free and all these stuff and all these stuff. But you're gonna realize that I just want to actually go. I'm going to watch it on this, bro. And it's like, wow, bro. Wow, but it actually takes you to actually go through that to realize that yeah, you actually so that's the thing where be like saying to me, oh, everything can upgrade, but there's only one you, bro. There's only one you, and you're going to realize that oh, the fundamental is there. It's just that I cannot do the fundamental in different ways. I can do the fundamental in different ways, and be like, oh. But knowing this, actually going through this thing, going to actually give you the freedom to say, yeah, you actually can take your time to really set up your product and all these stuff to realize to say that okay, when it's released and when it's fully set up and everything, like that's when your time comes, it's like okay, yeah. When it actually when your stuff release, it's actually released. Like no matter where and that's the thing about talk about brand loyalty and stuff like that. No matter where you go, you're going to be always the same brand. The same that's why every company be like, oh, the brand is the same. Like, yeah, we actually, so all the days I can out there, so complain about my this and that and all this stuff, the podcast and about those university experience. There's a reason why, even to this day, bro. There's a reason why my university is accredited. Like, that word is a relevant word. It's like, oh, I forgot that. So even my floppy days, I'm at someone's best. Like, so even my floppy days is the best of something. So it's like that, doing that, actually using the premium version of different product and stuff like that. Um, for one, it gives you the ability to actually go on and shop for the things that you actually like at its best value. At its best value, be like, oh, you're seeing it at its best. That's the thing about window shopping. You're seeing it at its best. Then, when you actually use it and stuff like that, you're gonna realize that even your poor days and all, that's the reason why you see all billionaires and all these stuff talking about, oh, they still eat beans and all those stuff. Eat the poor days and stuff like that. 'Cause, those days are, the more you're gonna realize that the rich is just able to eat more food. The rich is just basically able to eat more food than you and all these stuff. So it's like all the fancy food and all these stuff, bro. It's just all the fancy we have eaten and all these stuff is still food. It's still food. Like, no matter which level you go, it's still food. If you're starving, you're starving. It's just that you're going to actually go through periods of being rich in and periods of being poor. And what happened is that those times when you were actually poor, you're going to actually, or those times you're going to actually realize that there are certain stuff that are important, certain stuff like the core stuff. And you're going to be very, going to get very complicated at each time. Boom, there's a listening to me on the podcast. The podcast is out there to give you, just like when I was listening to this stuff. These stuff to give you the theory to say, yeah, this is what actually got me through this, bro. But you have to actually do it in real life. When you actually do it in real life, then you actually get your own stuff. When you actually do it in real life, you can actually get your own stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is my thing now that I'm gonna use to break away. But yo, you actually need the experience from different people that are different phases in life. That actually gone through. That's the thing about myself. And actually was somewhere, I know I'm somewhere, so I can get you here, and then I realize, okay, yeah, it's right up to here, but then this I'm gonna branch out here. Be like, ah, cool, cool, cool. And gonna hear me preaching the same way, and gonna come back and see me preaching the same way, and be like, oh my god, bro, I don't even need to listen to you anymore, branch out and all these stuff. But that's it, man. Be like, it's not the fact that I actually changed, just that my avenue changed. So what happens is that boom, the person that actually inspired me to do the podcast and stuff like that, I'm able to actually buy his book. For some boom, I'm able to actually do certain stuff. So it's like, okay, no, what happens is that actually past the phase of being the spectator, past the phase of being a player and all these stuff, pass through those phases now. I'm I'm just doing this stuff. And I don't there's doing this stuff. There's a past the phase when of being of the lesson, we pass the phase of the learning and actually applying this stuff. We actually just applying this stuff for a while and be like, okay, yeah. Now we actually reach somewhere. We actually reach somewhere now. You actually have to be like, okay, now we know we're poor times now. The poor times now we actually have to come back and evaluate where we're at again and then come back and be like, okay, yeah. And that's the reason. That's the thing where we're like, oh, each 4 days, that's it. Each 4 days is a different thing. So like, boom, I'm recording this thing uh, in May again, 2025. And what happened is that what I remember coming home and all this stuff, I see the rain and thunder again. So I have to be more aware of that now. But my PC is fixed. If you actually remember, the lightning actually um went and hit out the PC. Actually, it hit out the PC. So actually be more aware of that now, anything like that. But um, back with the other things, I'll be like, oh no, knowing that, knowing that I can actually move, be more mobile, and find different avenues to talk about offline fun, and all these stuff. Get more into offline fun when we're coming down and all these stuff. This is somewhat online fun. Using this stuff, doing this stuff is actually me. And what happens after the podcast? It's actually online fun for me. You'll be like, oh my god, why the hell this person they make mini podcast? God, what is that? That's the cost of being knowledgeable, bro. Something like podcast, things like reading a book and all these stuff. This is what separates. That's the reason why I be like, oh, people I say I was all I said, oh man, stuff like that. It's like, yo, the more you actually be like, yo, more you actually, more money you get, the more you actually become who you want it to be. And it's like if I'm actually not there, I'm actually at a place where where I want it to be. Like, and that's the reason why, yo, more I be like, yo, back in the days, people would even see me, bro. And it's like, yeah, yeah, people would just see me. So it's funny. It's funny now in 2025 how I've been seeing so much that is actually eventful for people to say, oh, all aside, oh, no, man, that's actually what I like. I've been really seen from back in the days, and now I'm overseen to the point where people like, wow, yeah. And the reason is because I was at a place, bro. I, you see me on that thing, right? You see me at a place of riches. I walk inside. I propose an idea that is or something, and that's the thing with a business and all this stuff. And all. You see something that I propose to you, something then and there, and that goes likewise. Just likewise, like boom, I go into my email and see things like ads and be like, oh my god, I can go to here and all these stuff. And maybe some of those stuff aren't we call it scams or whatever. Maybe those stuff are legit now. But I didn't have the time to actually go and I didn't have the time or the risk or stuff like that. Or I was fearful back then to say, yo, let me go try to see if is legit or not or stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that I actually missed the opportunity. It just means that it, I just wasn't just like everything. Everything works out for a reason. I wasn't ready for that opportunity yet. Because what, just like everything else, if I actually get the money and all this stuff, boom, miss me out just to get drunk and see me out on the streets and all this stuff. Just like everybody else who isn't prepared for the money. It's like, oh, if you actually get it and not prepared for it, you out there so go out and waste it 10 million times. And it's like, oh, cool. But with everything, what with basically this thing, what I realized was, uh, I mean, just remember what this episode was about. Again, I want this trying to remember what I was saying. Oh yeah, so talking about the premium version of stuff. So what I'm gonna realize is that you actually have tendency, you actually have tendency to do certain stuff. Each level of riches. So that's the thing where be like, oh, I'm listening to podcast and stuff like that. I was actually at a low phase, a very low phase of my life back then at the start. And sometimes even now today, I'm still at somewhat I went, but I'm very much just like with everything. It's better for me to actually be here than elsewhere. Than elsewhere. Like, oh yeah, it's better for me to be here than here where I'm staying in 2025 than to where I was. Like in every reality, I say, oh yeah, I would choose here than compared to a different. And it's like, oh why? Cause you know you out there so hearing me in 2025. You're hearing the lessons, you're hearing the stuff. You hear me as a university graduate and stuff like that. Like legit. All those stuff are actual stuff to be celebrated and all these stuff. That those are stuff you're gonna actually realize in a being a what in the adult world. In the adult world and all these stuff, you're going to actually realize that oh, these are stuff to celebrate to the fact that oh, if you don't have this, you're legit is a poor class. Like people usually call me rich and all this, and we're like, oh yeah, yo, these stuff is you're actually getting these stuff to show that we're actually trying. It doesn't make sense. You're just preaching to the get up to come and that's the and that's the funny thing about I love about my school. I doing Caribbean tours and stuff like that. I learned about the slave days. So yeah, wow, most of the slaves were actually there talking about leaving the plantation. There were actually people there talking about leaving it and was in the plantation actually, and then boom, and in 2025, you actually see them they are still talking about leaving the plantation. No, like and that's the reason why I actually go to the degree and say it's released in 2018 and stuff like that because it's actually they I could actually go back and see people from my year could be actually be in the same place. And it's not a disrespect or anything. That's the thing about this. It's not a disrespect or anything. It's say that. If you actually go back there, you could actually see them in the same place with the same mentality. And it's like, oh wow, we are going to celebrate a different year of independence, and we would actually have the same mentality as we before. Like, wow, we, we didn't change. Or I did, and that's either a good thing or a bad thing. We're like, oh wow, all this work is for naught. Like legit, all this work is for naught. Like, oh wow, we left it. This is talking about. And that's the thing where be like, oh, and that's the reason why I be like, oh, people, all that side of the mind, I be like, oh, leaving the bottom, where I be like, oh, yo, we actually left the bottom for a reason because, yo, if you were actually there for a whole time, like, yo, you can't actually be at the top. You can't actually help. Yeah, what happened is that idea versus reality. What happened, what you're going to realize was that when I was actually at the bottom, you hear a lot of more talk and all those stuff. I needed the time to actually come out and be like, okay, let me just stop talk and actually just do this stuff. Then you have the podcast now to say, yeah, these are what I actually learned in actually doing this stuff. Because at the scene, the thing about actually talking about the stuff and actually doing it. And it's like, oh yeah. Oh, it's not as easy. It's actually not as easy as I think to say, oh, actually doing these stuff. That's the reason why more while you come in and say, oh yeah, the more talk is and all this stuff. It's still me like, oh, blah blah blah. It's like, oh yeah, the more talk. I was telling you these stuff before. It's just that you actually seen it now. You actually seen it now. The more I'd be like, yo, there's not much to say. It's like, yo, that's the thing. I'd be like, oh, I mean exactly what I say. Like, legit, if you listen to the podcast, I tell you in real life, it's legit saying the same thing. It's just that at the time, you see that I could do it or not could do it. That's that's like legit. It's like, oh yeah. So the same thing with the podcast. You could catch me out here, out here in 2025, be like, oh my god, see the boss out there recording the podcast and stuff like that. It's like, bro, I would actually be out there telling you the same thing, but it's just that I don't want to tell you this stuff. I want to record the podcast now so that you can actually listen. So what happens is that back in the days you hear me out there so spending VNs and WhatsApp saying VNs and all this stuff. No, bro. No, I'm out there to want to record the podcast. It's like, okay. It's just like, yeah, we want to record the podcast. And it's like, cool, cool. This is what I actually want. So that's the thing. We'll be like, yo, each year you'll be like, yo, things we actually try out premium version of stuff. You're going to realize that even back then you still have natural tendency. You still have the tendency to do certain stuff. You're going to actually, and that's the thing with trying out stuff. You're going to actually realize, wow, I actually would prefer the free version of a certain product than a premium version of this, and be like, oh wow, that's actually why. You're going to realize that. So when you actually go out and fully invest in something, you're going to realize that, oh yeah, that was actually a good investment for you. I'd be like, oh, wow, we actually tried the premium version of everything just to say, yo, this was the best. The free version of this is actually the 10 times better than that was on the market or stuff like that. So those are, but you have to actually go through those things to say, yeah, to say that, boom, when I actually go full time premium now, and you out there to go auto pay and all these stuff and you don't even think about the money coming out of your account and all these stuff. You know that you actually went through all those processes to say, yeah, this is what I actually was out here. So getting paid for. And it's like, cool. This was actually what I was out there so paying for. It's like, cool. Boom, bang, quick. And it's like, but that's with everything. Like, oh, I actually do that now and be like, yeah, that is cool. But that was the experience that I actually got using the premium version of our stuff and be like, oh, I actually was investing in other premium version of stuff to actually get the different stuff. And I realized that, wow, bro, like legit, I was still going towards doing this. I was actually still going towards doing this. And I was like, oh. That means I actually have a I that's the reason why I be like, oh, you can actually separate. That's why you can come in and actually be like, oh, no matter how old I can be, like our 90s baby or stuff like that, or millennial or whatever, I be like, oh wow, we actually have certain tendency, you know. Twitter changed to X or whatever, and I be like, oh, Twitter changed to X, and I be like, oh, we people, the Twitter people is still actually out there, so still prefer Twitter than this and that and all these stuff. And he's like, oh, we didn't change. It's just that. So when you actually go to the premium version of the stuff that you actually going out, I'm like, oh, this is the reason why now you see me now out there so in this stuff. And it's like, cool. This is the reason why now you see me in this. I can actually go now rigorously test them, and it's like, yeah, this is actually the best thing for me. This was actually the best thing for me. And when I actually find out this is the best thing for you, the only thing you're gonna do is like, okay, change to the better version of the same thing. Like, okay, give me give me the give me the best version of the same thing. And be like, okay, that's when I actually become the flagship guy, the flagship person. And be like, okay, yeah. But those things will happen over. You know, you actually it don't happen over. But so when I actually reach those level now, we actually reach the flagship phase now. We actually reach the flagship boy now, our flagship person. That's the reason for the podcast. You're gonna see me out there and be like, oh my god, back in the days, bro. Welcome to the Free Mindset Podcast. My name is Connor Simple. This is how you're gonna get this and that and that. And like, you don't see me looking at it on my on the flagship stuff. Flagship stuff or whatever. Flagship. I'm like, cool. But thing about it, the core lesson is that lifestyle inflation don't actually run up going to try get these stuff. Then boom, you can't even pay for it. You can't even afford it and all these stuff. Wow, you look cool and you can't even afford it. And it's like wow, you look cool and you can't even afford it. And be like, oh wow. That's the thing. And be like, yeah. That's even I talk about the episode about Captain Hardy and stuff and it's like, yo. I guess you could actually back in those grade 8 days, no, bro. It was actually one. Actually, those were actually days, bro. Those were actually days, bro. It actually was not as rich as we were, bro. No, we actually couldn't afford these stuff. We actually wouldn't able to. So what happened is that the hype person, and that's thing, and that's thing actually I can see in 2025 now. You can actually see if the hype person, what actually could afford this stuff now. Or they will just the hype person and be like, oh, you go out on the ball court and what happens that you'll see people that play ball and be like, okay, we come what is to do this now, the family say, oh, I have to convince my family that stay out this playing basketball. Or you can actually see the person that actually passed the phase of convincing them like, okay, we're gonna go full basketball and all this stuff. These stuff are actually the things that actually see like, okay, all these stuff. And like what is a luxury to certain stuff? What is a privilege to certain is a luxury. Those stuff like what you actually see the people them doing is they actually had to work for those stuff. Yeah. That's the thing where I be like, oh, when I actually see a family coming in now and be like, oh, flagship everything, Gucci everything, these stuff. And it's like, that's actually we actually had to work. It's like all the day, when we actually get them. That's the thing now. When we actually get them and we see people are laughing, oh my god, Gucci everything and all these stuff. This, it's like, yo, we actually work for this stuff. And it's like, oh wow. The thing about sometimes oh wow, I actually work for this stuff. I was like, wow. And it's like I'm actually getting reward from my labor. It's like, yo. And that's the thing with sometimes be like, sometimes you actually have to sit down, look at the person critique and be like, sometimes you have to go and live their life and be like, wow, we actually lived it to see, yeah. we actually wouldn't want to live this. I'd be like, oh, we actually live to say, yo, we actually have to become this to actually live this life. Like, boom, I want they have to be drinking and all this stuff to become this person and all this stuff. Ah, it's like, oh, boom, boom. It's like, yo, that's sad. That's actually sad. And it's like, oh, that means like, oh, that's actually sad. All these stuff. And like, oh, cool. But with everything, you want to realize that, yo, you are natural tendency. You naturally tend to do certain stuff. No matter how you ain't gonna try to, no matter how you get the premium version of certain stuff, you have and you out there so unlocking the level of riches. It's just that you out there so tend certain stuff never change. You just get better at doing certain stuff. Certain stuff didn't change. It's just that you get better at doing certain stuff and be like, cool. And it's like, cool. So what was uh, I'd be like, we'll actually find what will happen is that you're gonna be out there and say something like, "Oh, um, can you get this on this platform and all these stuff and all this stuff?" And that's basically what, and that's the reason why they have things like cross and all these stuff. But with everything, I'm be like everything. You actually try the premium version of a stuff, you're gonna realize that okay. uh, you tendence you're gonna realize that just like addiction or something like your tendency to actually go towards certain stuff and actually go towards it, then you actually say, oh yeah, this is where we make our you use that to say this is where we make our bread and butter. So we're gonna actually invest in this stuff. We're actually gonna invest in this stuff and then, that's basically it for this episode. Thank you for listening. I look forward for the next episode. Yeah.
Well, this is the end of the episode. Thanks for watching and look forward for the next episode. To support this podcast, go to anchor.fm/cssb/support or become a sponsor for this episode. If you have a product that you want to have more exposure, DM me on the Instagram page Reframing Mindset Podcast or on Twitter at ReframingP. Either way would help. Thank you regardless for listening, and here's a preview for the next episode.